AI can make a clinical decision in 11 milliseconds. It cannot be held responsible for that decision in 11 years. The gap between those two facts is where the next major governance failure in healthcare will happen. And right now, most organizations are doing nothing about it. Here's what to do about it. I want to be precise about what I mean by governance failure. I do not mean a breach. I do not mean a regulatory citation. I mean an organization discovering after the fact that AI systems embedded in consequential decisions were producing outcomes nobody had defined an accountability structure for. And that when something went wrong, there was no clear answer to the most basic governance question. Who answers for this? That failure is already happening. It's just not visible yet at the scale that forces the institutional response. This video is about building the architecture that closes that gap, not the policy layer. The operational accountability layer underneath it. 5 elements that, assembled correctly, give you something you can actually enforce, not just document. Let me define the problem precisely, because most organizations are responding to the wrong version of it. AI systems execute decisions. Humans answer for them. That has always been true of technology. But what is different now is the speed and the complexity. When a human makes a consequential decision, approves a loan, recommends a treatment, flags a transaction as fraudulent, there's a traceable path. A person made a judgment. That person can be asked to explain it. If the judgment was wrong, accountability is attributable. When an AI system makes that same decision, the path dissolves. The model has no manager. The weights that produced the output are not a person. The vendor cites the contract terms. The business unit that deployed the tool points to the approval workflow. And the board looks for a person whose job includes enterprise risk. That's you. The accountability concentration is not the problem. Accountability concentrating in the security leader is appropriate. The problem is when it concentrates without the infrastructure to support it. When you inherit accountability for an AI outcome without the systems to monitor those outcomes, the authority to govern them, or the structures to produce evidence of what happened and why. That is the governance gap. And it's not a technology problem. It's a structure problem. Here is the specific version of this that keeps me up at night. An AI system embedded in clinical decision support is making recommendations that influence patient care. The system is technically secure. The vendor has passed all the assessments. The procurement process was followed. But nobody has defined what happens when the model drifts. Nobody has built a review trigger for when outputs fall outside the expected distribution. Nobody has named the person accountable for the decision to act on an AI recommendation versus override it. The system is running. The accountability structure is missing. That's not a hypothetical. That's the operational reality in a significant percentage of healthcare organizations deploying clinical AI right now. There are 5 elements, not a framework document, an operating architecture. The difference is that documents get written and filed, architectures get built and enforced. Element 1, AI asset inventory with consequence classification. Most organizations have moved toward AI inventories. Fewer have classified those assets by consequence. The inventory answers what you have. Consequence classification answers what it costs when it fails. Take every AI system in your environment and assign it a consequence tier. High consequence, a wrong output causes patient harm, regulatory exposure, or material financial loss. Medium consequence, a wrong output causes significant operational disruption or reputational damage. Low consequence, a wrong output is correctable with limited downstream impact. Your governance architecture does not apply uniformly across all 3 tiers. High consequence systems need full accountability structures. Low consequence systems need baseline monitoring. Treating everything the same is how governance programs become unmanageable. If you can't tier your AI assets by consequence today, start there. Everything else builds on it. Element 2, named accountability for every high consequence system. For every AI system in your high consequence tier, one human being is accountable for its outputs. Not a committee, not a department. A name. That sounds obvious, but it is almost never actually done. The named accountability owner is responsible for approving the use case, understanding the model's limitations, defining the conditions under which a human review is required, and answering when something goes wrong. They don't have to be a technical expert. They have to be the person whose name is next to the question, who answers when this fails. If you cannot write a name next to that question for your top 5 AI systems, your governance program has documentation, but not accountability. Those are not the same thing. Element 3, output review triggers. Not every AI output requires human review. Requiring review of everything defeats the operational purpose of deploying AI. The question is, under what conditions does a human review the output before it has operational consequence? Review triggers are defined conditions that route AI outputs to human evaluation. For example, confidence score below threshold. Output falls outside the expected distribution. Decision impacts a population segment that has historically shown model bias. Decision value exceeds a defined threshold. The specific triggers are use case dependent. The governance requirement is that they exist, that they're documented, and that they're enforced, not just written down. An AI system with no defined review triggers is an AI system operating with no circuit breaker. That's not a governance failure waiting to happen. It's one already in progress. Element 4, non-human identity governance. AI systems act through identities. Agents, service accounts, API keys, automated workflows. All of these have access to systems, data, and the ability to take action. Most identity governance programs were built for human users. They were not built for autonomous systems that operate continuously, chain actions across multiple services, and accumulate permissions over time. Every AI agent in your environment needs the same governance treatment as a privileged human account. Defined scope, least privileged access, lifecycle management, regular review. If the agent is orphaned, if the person who deployed it has left the organization or moved to a different team, its access does not automatically expire. You have to build that in. Non-human identities now outnumber human identities in most enterprise environments. Governing them is not optional, it's foundational. Element 5, accountability, traceability. This is the element most governance programs are missing entirely. Accountability, traceability is the ability to produce evidence after the fact of why a specific AI decision was made, what data influenced the output, what model version was running, what review process, if any, was applied before the output had operational consequence. It's not a compliance requirement, though it will increasingly become one. It is a consequence management capability. When something goes wrong, and something will go wrong, the organization that can produce a clear decision trail are the ones that manage the aftermath. The ones that cannot are the ones that spend 2 years in depositions and regulatory proceedings trying to reconstruct what happened from incomplete logs. Accountability traceability is not retroactive. You cannot build it after the failure. You build it before, as part of the deployment architecture. The time to build it is now. If your organization is at 0 on this, no consequence classification, no named accountability, no review triggers, here is where to start. Pick one system, not your hardest one. Not a pilot system nobody uses. Pick the AI system with the highest operational consequence in your environment right now. The one where a wrong output would cause the most harm. Answer 5 questions about that system. What does it do? What does a wrong output look like? Who approved deploying it? What happens when it goes wrong? Who's accountable for that outcome? If you can answer all 5 cleanly, you have a governance model for one system. Build from there. If If you cannot answer all 5, the gaps in your answers are your program. Start building the structures that close them. Named accountability, review triggers, traceability, before you move to the next system. This is not a 6-month initiative. The first system should take weeks. The architecture you build for the first one becomes the template for all the others. Governance without enforcement is theater. The goal is not a policy document. The goal is an accountability structure that holds when something goes wrong. Build one before you build the policy layer that describes it. AI can act. It cannot answer for those actions. That is not a technology limitation. It's a governance decision requirement. The gap between what AI can execute and what humans must answer for is precisely the space where accountability architecture belongs. Most organizations are filling that space with documentation. Governance policies, framework slides, compliance checklists. Listen, those things have a role, but they are not suitable for the operational structures that determine who is accountable, what triggers review, and how you produce evidence of what happened. The 5 elements: consequence classification, named accountability, review triggers, non-human identity governance, and accountability traceability are the architecture. Build those. The documentation follows, not the other way around. If you're building this inside your organization right now, I want to hear what you are running into, the real constraints, the organizational friction, what is working and what is not. Put it in the comments. For those who want to go deeper, a structured program for building this architecture is in development. Link will be in the description when it's live. 5 videos around this. If you've been here for all of them, you know what we're building. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.